Most people see 100,000 miles on a luxury car and run the other way like it just caught fire. Meanwhile, a Lexus with 628,000 miles just sold at auction, and the buyer wasn't scrapping it. He was planning to drive it to 1 million. The truth is, some of the best luxury cars ever built don't start falling apart at 6 figures on the odometer. They start settling in. The original owners moved on because they wanted something newer, not because the car asked them to leave. Today, we're counting down 13 used luxury cars with 100,000 miles that are still worth every single dollar. Stick around, because by the end, you'll know exactly which ones to target and which model years to avoid. Let's get into it. Number 13, Cadillac CTS 3.6 2014 to 2019. Most people buried Cadillac in their mind somewhere around 2005, right next to flip phones and low-rise jeans. And that's exactly why a CTS with 100,000 miles is sitting on a used lot for $12,000 to $16,000, while nobody gives it a second glance. Originally stickered around $46,000, the third-generation CTS was the car that finally forced BMW engineers to stop laughing at American luxury and start paying attention to it. The 3.6-liter V6 is GM's workhorse engine found across the Camaro, Acadia, and half a dozen other platforms, which means parts cost pennies, and every mechanic in the country has worked on one before breakfast. At 100,000 miles, the maintenance checklist is refreshingly simple. Fresh spark plugs, a transmission fluid service, and checking the timing chain tensioners on earlier 2014 models. Do those 3 things and you've got another 100,000 miles of composed rear-wheel drive luxury ahead of you. Step inside and the CU infotainment system has aged about as gracefully as a MySpace page, but the leather still holds its shape. The Brembo brakes on V-Sport trims still bite with genuine authority, and the magnetic ride suspension delivers a balance of comfort and sharpness that makes you forget this car costs less than a loaded compact crossover, the American luxury sedan nobody saw coming. Now, for the full-size luxury SUV that proved 100,000 miles is just the opening chapter. Number 12, Lincoln Navigator, 2015 to 2017. iSeeCar's data confirmed something most people don't know. The Lincoln Navigator is the only luxury vehicle in America to appear on their original list of cars most likely to reach 200,000 miles. Not a Lexus, not a Mercedes, a Lincoln. Let that sink in while you look at one sitting on a used lot for $22,000 to $28,000 with 100,000 miles that feel more like 50,000. The 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6 is the same twin-turbo engine that powers the Ford F-150, a truck that gets driven harder in a single weekend than most luxury SUVs see in a year. At 100,000, the critical maintenance is a spark plug replacement and a thorough inspection of the turbocharger lines, both affordable and preventable. The rest is oil changes, brake fluid, and letting the engine do what it was designed to do: run forever while carrying your entire family and their luggage without breaking a sweat. Open the rear door, and the third row actually fits grown adults with legroom to spare. The 22-way power seats in the front feel like first-class recliners bolted to a cloud, and the cabin at highway speed is hushed in a way that makes you genuinely forget you're driving a 3-ton vehicle through traffic. One Navigator owner at 134,000 miles described it simply, "I'd buy another one tomorrow if this one ever stopped running, but it won't, so I'm stuck being happy." The only luxury vehicle on the 200,000-mile list. Now for the Japanese V6 that mechanics genuinely look forward to seeing in the shop. Number 11, Infiniti Q50 3.7 2014 to 2015. There's a reason mechanics actually smile when they see the VQ37 VHR engine code on a work order. It means they're about to do an oil change, hand you the keys, and go back to wrestling with the BMW that's been on the lift all week. The Infiniti Q50 3.7 at 100,000 miles is a car that's hitting its stride the way a marathon runner hits mile 5, loose, confident, and nowhere near done. Buy the 3.7. Skip the 2016 plus twin turbo. Clean examples with 100,000 sit at $11,000 to $14,000. The VQ37 shares its bones with the 370Z and G37, both of which routinely cross 250,000 miles with nothing but oil changes and the occasional oxygen sensor. At $100,000, expect to service the spark plugs, flush the coolant, and inspect the lower control arm bushings. That's the entire list, and a competent, independent shop will handle all of it for less than a single BMW brake job costs. The 7-speed automatic still shifts cleanly after a decade. The rear-wheel drive platform still makes on-ramps feel like an invitation rather than a chore. And the Bose sound system fills the cabin the way expensive audio should, deep, clear, and worth every penny that someone else already paid for it. One owner at 118,000 miles called it the car that cured my German car addiction permanently. The V6 that cures German car addiction. From here, the 3-row luxury SUV where 100,000 is barely the halfway point. Number 10, Acura MDX, 2010 to 2013. At 100,000 miles, most luxury SUVs start whispering expensive things to your mechanic. The Acura MDX at 100,000 miles starts whispering something else entirely. Is that all you've got? The 3.7-liter V6 paired with the super handling all-wheel drive system was overbuilt from the factory. And a decade of ownership data has made it embarrassingly clear that 6 figures on the odometer is just the engine stretching before the real drive begins. Clean examples with 100,000 sit at $9,000 to $13,000, and the maintenance at this mileage is simple enough to fit on a napkin. Honda DW1 transmission fluid every 30,000 miles, differential fluid service, fresh spark plugs, and premium fuel. Skip the transmission fluid and you're asking for trouble. Follow it religiously and you've got another 150,000 miles of trouble-free 3-row luxury ahead of you, backed by iSeeCars data showing the MDX has a 9.1% chance of reaching 250,000 miles. The cabin at $100K tells you everything about how well Honda builds things. The leather shows minimal wear, the dashboard doesn't crack the way some competitors do after 6 months in the sun, and the SHAWD system still vectors torque with the same precision it had on delivery day. One owner who bought his MDX at 112,000 miles described it as the first used car where absolutely nothing surprised me. And I mean that as the highest compliment a car can receive. The 3-row luxury SUV where 100,000 is just the warm-up. Now for the Swedish 7-seater that still feels brand new at 6 figures. Number 9, Volvo XC90 T6, 2016 to 2019. Volvo built the second-generation XC90 around a single obsession: make 7 people so comfortable and so safe that they forget they're inside a car at all. At 100,000 miles, that obsession hasn't faded one bit. The T6 engine, a 2.0-liter turbocharged and supercharged 4-cylinder, making 316 horsepower, sounds unconventional on paper, but delivers smooth, effortless power on the road because the supercharger fills the torque gap that turbo-only engines stumble over at low speed. Clean examples with 100,000 sit at $18,000 to $24,000. At this mileage, replace the auxiliary drive belt, service the 8-speed ASIN automatic transmission fluid, and inspect the front suspension components that absorb the XC90's weight. City safety, automatic braking, and pilot assist semi-autonomous driving still function flawlessly at high mileage because Volvo engineers apparently don't believe software should expire the way German engineers seem to think it should. Here's what separates the XC90 from everything else on this list at 100,000: the seats. Volvo has been engineering seats since the 1960s using orthopedic research, and these feel like they were personally fitted to your spine by a chiropractor who moonlights as a furniture designer. The cabin is clean Scandinavian minimalism, real wood from Swedish forests, a portrait-oriented touchscreen that still feels modern, and the kind of interior quiet that makes you realize most luxury SUVs are just pretending to be luxury. The Swedish 7-seater that still feels new at 6 figures. Now for the sports car that proves Porsche builds more than just fast, they build forever. Number 8, Porsche 911, 991, 2009 to 2019. A Porsche 911 with 100,000 miles sounds like a financial death sentence. And that fear alone is why you can find one for $40,000 to $55,000 instead of the $90,000 plus it costs new. But here's the dirty secret the automotive world doesn't advertise. iSeeCars rated the 9118.9 out of 10 for reliability, making it the second most reliable luxury sports car ever tested. that's not a misprint. A Porsche is more reliable than most economy cars. At 100,000, the flat 6 needs fresh spark plugs, a coolant flush, and an IMS bearing inspection on earlier 997.1 models. A known weakness that's both preventable and affordable when caught in time. Target the 997.2 2009 to 2011 or 991 generation 2012 to 2019 to avoid the IMS issue entirely. The engine itself is derived from decades of motorsport engineering where failure doesn't mean a tow truck, it means not finishing Le Mans. Turn the key and the flat 6 fires with a mechanical bark that vibrates through the steering column, raw, alive, and completely unlike anything a turbocharged modern engine can replicate. The steering communicates every texture in the road surface. The chassis feels telepathic through corners, and the build quality at 100,000 is tighter than most new cars at 0 miles. One 911 owner at 127,000 miles described the experience as the only car I've ever owned where high mileage made me more confident, not less. The sports car that gets more confident with age. Now for the German sedan that earned the title of most reliable luxury midsize ever tested. Number 7, Mercedes-Benz E35OW212 2012 to 2013. IC Cars ranked the Mercedes E-Class the most reliable luxury midsize car with a 7.8 out of 10 score, and the W212 generation is the one that earned it. At 100,000 miles, this car doesn't feel tired. It feels like it's finally settled into the rhythm it was designed for, composed and unhurried, like a well-tailored suit that only looks better after it's been worn properly for a few years. Target 2012 and 2013 with the naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6. Avoid the E550 V8. Timing chain costs will haunt you. Skip the air suspension and stick with steel springs that will outlive the car's body panels. At 100,000, budget for spark plugs, a transmission fluid service, fresh engine mounts if idle vibrations appear, and a thorough suspension inspection. Budget roughly $1,500 per year with an independent specialist, and this car will reward you with the kind of highway composure that makes everything else in this price range feel assembled by amateurs. The doors still close with that unmistakable 3-pointed star thud at 6 figures. The leather carries a faint scent of expensive decisions even a decade later. And the ride quality wraps around you like a first-class airline seat, traveling at 75 miles per hour while the outside world becomes completely irrelevant. One owner at 143,000 miles said it best. I've owned 3 of these. I'll own 3 more. Nothing else, at any price, rides like this. The most reliable luxury midsize backed by data. Now for the Honda-built sedan that costs less to maintain than most economy cars. Number 6, Acura TLX V6, 2015 to 2018. Honda engineers designed the TLX the way they design everything. Make it so reliable that mechanics forget it exists. Price it so low that nobody feels ripped off, and then watch in quiet confusion as the entire world buys a German car instead and spends the next 3 years complaining about the repair bills on internet forums. The TLX is that friend who's always on time, always available, never dramatic, and that's exactly why nobody posts about it online. Get the 3.5-liter V6. Skip the Turbo 4. Repair Pal ranks it number 1 out of 31 luxury midsize cars with an average annual repair cost of $440. A number so low it almost feels like a typo when you compare it to the $1,200 plus that BMW and Mercedes owners pay for the same level of luxury. At 100,000, the maintenance is oil changes, a timing belt inspection, and fresh spark plugs. That's it. The V6 shares its architecture with the Honda Accord, meaning parts cost nothing and the engine routinely crosses 200,000 miles on good intentions and basic upkeep. One TLX in New York crossed 232,000 miles with 2 owners averaging over 40,000 miles per year, and the car never needed a single major repair. At 100,000, the leather still holds its shape, the ride still delivers smooth highway cruising, and the ownership experience is so uneventful that describing it is genuinely difficult because nothing ever goes wrong. That's not boring, that's a nail. That's the entire point. The sedan's so reliable it's almost impossible to write about. Now, for the Korean flagship hiding S-Class quality behind a badge nobody recognizes yet. Number 5, Genesis G83.8, 2017 to 2020. The Genesis G80 at 100,000 miles is one of the most absurd value propositions in the entire used car market, because you're getting a car that was engineered to compete with the Mercedes E-Class and BMW 5 Series, still looks like it costs $50,000 and can be bought for $14,000 to $18,000, all while potentially carrying a powertrain warranty that still has miles left on the clock even at six figures. The 3.8-liter V6 is barely stressed at highway speed, and the 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty transfers to the second owner, meaning a car bought at 80,000 miles still has 20,000 miles of manufacturer-backed confidence remaining. At 100,000, the maintenance is a transmission fluid service, fresh spark plugs, a brake fluid flush, and inspecting the suspension bushings. The engine asks for nothing beyond oil changes and patience, because Hyundai apparently built this powertrain with the paranoia of a brand that knew it couldn't afford a single warranty claim. Slide into the driver's seat and the quilted Nappa leather wraps around you like a first-class airline cabin that someone accidentally priced at economy. The Lexicon sound system makes streaming music sound like a live concert, and the door closes with a vault-like thud that would make a Bentley engineer quietly nod. One owner at 108,000 miles put it simply, "This car made me stop caring about badges entirely, because nothing with a German star has ever been this reliable or this comfortable at the same time." S-Class quality hiding behind a badge nobody recognizes. Now, for the luxury SUV that breaks every stereotype about Porsche maintenance costs. Number 4. Porsche Cayenne S, 2011 to 2014. Here's the dirty secret nobody in the automotive world wants you to know. The Porsche Cayenne with 100,000 miles is one of the most reliable luxury SUVs you can buy. And the only reason people don't know this is because the word Porsche makes everyone assume the repair bills will require a second mortgage. The 958 generation with the 4.8-liter V8 making 400 horsepower has proven itself remarkably durable, and specialists who work exclusively on Porsches will tell you the Cayenne is their least visited patient. Clean examples with 100,000 sit at $18,000 to $24,000. At this mileage, the critical service is a coolant pipe replacement, a known weak point that's preventable and costs less than a single BMW brake job. Fresh spark plugs, a transfer case fluid service, and a thorough inspection of the cooling system round out the list. The V8 architecture is shared with the Panamera and Touareg, stress-tested across millions of vehicles from German autobahns to Middle Eastern deserts. Turn the key and the V8 fires with a refined bark that reminds you this is a genuine Porsche, not a luxury appliance pretending to be athletic. The steering is precise at parking lot speed and communicative at triple digits. The brakes inspire the kind of confidence that makes mountain switchbacks feel like a playground. And the all-wheel drive system delivers composed handling that turns a 2-ton SUV into something that drives like a car half its weight, the Porsche that breaks every maintenance stereotype. Now for the body-on-frame luxury SUV built with Land Cruiser DNA that treats 100K like a coffee break. Number 3. Lexus GX470, 2003 to 2009. The Lexus GX470 at 100,000 miles hasn't even cleared its throat yet. IC Cars ranked it among the top 10 longest-lasting vehicles ever produced. Not just luxury vehicles, all vehicles. And the 2 UZF EV8 underneath was deliberately tuned to produce only 2/3 of its actual capacity. That means the internal components are barely working even when you're towing a boat uphill through desert heat, which is exactly the kind of scenario Toyota engineers stress-tested this engine for. When Motor Trend tore down a million-mile 2UZ-FE from a Tundra, the internals were still within factory specifications. Clean examples with 100,000 sit at $14,000 to $20,000. Verify the timing belt was replaced at 90,000 miles on non-negotiable. Check for frame rust on northeastern examples. Beyond that, oil changes and basic upkeep are genuinely all this car needs to cross 300,000 miles without ever once raising its voice. The fuel economy is terrible at 15 miles per gallon, and the infotainment is basically a calculator with a screen. But open the door and the cabin is surprisingly luxurious for its age. Genuine leather, a commanding driving position that makes you feel like you're sitting on top of the road rather than in it, and body-on-frame solidity that makes every modern unibody crossover feel like it was assembled from cardboard and optimistic marketing materials. The GX470 isn't a car you buy for gas mileage, you buy it because at 100,000 it hasn't even started working yet. The luxury SUV that treats six figures like a Monday morning. Now for the crossover so reliable that describing it is genuinely difficult. Number 2, Lexus RX350, 2010 to 2015. The Lexus RX350 at 100,000 miles is so uneventful that writing about the ownership experience genuinely feels like describing a sunset to someone who's already seen one. There's nothing wrong with it. There's just nothing dramatic to report. The engine runs, the transmission shifts, the leather stays intact, the air conditioning blows cold, and the owner keeps driving month after month, wondering when something will finally go wrong, except it never does. Because Lexus apparently forgot to engineer a failure point into this car. Owner forums describe the RX350 at high mileage as an anvil, and one documented example crossed 300,000 miles with nothing but a radiator seal and routine fluids. The 3.5-liter V6 uses a timing chain, no expensive belt service at 100,000. Clean examples sit at $13,000 to $17,000. At this mileage, the list is embarrassingly short. Fresh spark plugs, a brake fluid flush, and checking the water pump for weeping. Most mechanics finish the entire service in under 2 hours and spend the rest of the afternoon working on the Range Rover that's been in the shop since last Tuesday. Step inside and the door closes with a satisfying thud that still feels precise a decade and 6 figures later. The seats are wide and furniture-like, the cabin is hushed enough to forget the engine exists, and the materials age gracefully rather than disintegrating. One owner at 156,000 miles called it the most boring car experience of my life, and I mean that as the highest compliment. The crossover so boring it became indestructible. And that brings us to the single best 100,000-mile luxury car in America. Number 1, Lexus LS430, 2001 to 2006. The Lexus LS430 at 100,000 miles isn't a high-mileage car. It's a car that finished the tutorial level and is now ready for the actual game, because the 3UZ-FEV8 underneath carries million-mile DNA, and 100,000 is barely a rounding error in this engine's projected lifespan. Originally $55,000. Clean examples with 100,000 are available for $8,000 to $12,000, and prices have actually been appreciating because the market finally realized this car is simply too good to ignore. When a 2001 LS430 with 628,000 miles rolled across Cars and Bids, it sold for $4,450, and the buyer kept driving toward $1 million because the engine was just warming up, the way a marathon runner stretches before the actual race begins. At 100,000, verify the timing belt was replaced at 90,000, non-negotiable. Check for dashboard cracks on pre-2004 models. Beyond that, oil changes are genuinely all this car asks for, and it rewards that minimal attention with the kind of loyalty most luxury brands can only dream of inspiring. Step inside and the silence hits you first, the kind of hush where you hear your own watch ticking. Panel gaps so tight the dashboard looks carved from a single block of wood and leather. Consumer Reports ranked the LS among the most reliable luxury sedans ever tested. Owner after owner at 6 figures says the same thing. The best car I have ever owned. Old money doesn't chase low mileage, it chases the one car that simply, stubbornly keeps running. And at 100,000 miles, the LS430 hasn't even started trying yet. 13 luxury cars, 6 figures on every odometer, and every single one still worth every dollar. Most people run from 100,000 miles. Smart buyers run toward it. They really don't make them like they used to.